in the area, and have been partnering with the school district and the city for several years now, right, Greta? And this is just doing fantastic, literally life changing for me. But we're going to talk about me. We're here to talk about you and your kids, and adolescent and piano. And I know that Liz said that we would have time for questions at the end. I'm also I have ADHD, so I'm really good at jumping the subject and going down rabbit holes. So if you guys have any questions as we go through, just let me know. And I have developed skill to bring us back around to your topic, so I promise to bring us back. And so that being said, I also want to make sure that the content that we talk about tonight is relevant to you, it's pertinent to your family, to your kiddo. So we think of the impending transition to high school. What are you thinking about? What are you worried about? What are you concerned about? Were you hoping to learn about tonight, or anything along those lines? I'm going to write them down, make sure that if it's not something to talk about, I will try my best to come back to it. So, what are your thoughts about transition? What are you worried about?
Homework and time management.
Homework and time management, yeah. I'm pretty sure everybody's going to agree with what you're saying, so just keep on rolling. Going. Yeah.
I'm fixing a big pond.
Yeah. This. Stress, anxiety. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, parties at backyard. So, they united court.
That's it. So, transition. You with our case sheet part. Yes. I don't know that I don't, for doing what I've decided to handle different transitions I have for Nichols out there. Like, so, data bird. I am Aussie, sure. I me as a cheese as much as I've had to do for sure. One last time, any other thoughts? Or things you want to touch on tonight?
High school difference than when we were in school. And I come every day and I'm so anxious about that. Fine. Only student. It's not the way it was.
So then we're less experty. Isn't it funny how we get stuck in the way that it was and the way that we did things?
Yeah, it's not always that flavor to clean now. Yeah, I mean, when I went to college, I still use it for catalog. So stuff I know, it's not real helpful sometimes. And these digital natives, it would have boring. That. Ah. School is changed. The world is changed. They say that's the biggest. See. So we'll talk a little bit about that too, because the things that our kids have to balance now in first school and high school, you get that balance to set. And oops, then what's wow. Well, let's just jump into them. Sometimes I'm not terribly the best. Sometimes I am. We'll see. So I think before we start talking about the nuts and bolts of the transition and the experience of the transition, I think it's important to understand these creatures that are being. And they are friendly creatures. You all are a step ahead because you've been working with these little creatures for a while now. In this time called adolescence. So they we'll get to that. So this is a model of development. We're going to take it again. So you're back in 60s, 50s, somewhere. And I like his model because his model talks about the internal conflict that we're going through, and that once we resolve that conflict, he's rewound again. Okay? And I don't know if you remember when they were babies and Biz had the app or Wonder Days or something like that, where it'll tell you when your kid was working on a leap in their brain so they might get crabby for a couple of days. Neil was pretty spot on. And it was pretty, I wrote that, and because it was like, why do I not know this child now? They're using their stuff, and I'm reasoning it too, because they're really gabby, but their brain was worked up. And then, for the end of that storm cloud, they have some fun trick that they could do. And for me as a parent, that was really helpful because I could understand kind of what they were working on in their little brains. And that gave me I was lost closer. So this is kind of the same idea. And those leaps that I talk about, kids are still going through. Pay attention to a few weeks prior to a few weeks after their birthday, and then about 6 months away from their birthday. And see if they get a little moody, a little crabby. If our kids are about 6 months apart, and so they tend to cycle together in that leaf. And there's a few months of the year where it's like, oh, it's going to be a rough month. And we kind of know it is true. But then when they come out of there, they're talking a little bit different. They're using different words at different insights. So it's really fascinating. So that is still going to happen for your teens as they progress through adolescence. Oh, and I promise I won't read a whole lot of slides, but I do like to read this one. The adolescent mind is essentially a psychosocial stage between childhood and adulthood, between the morality learned by the child and the ethics to be developed by an adult. What does that mean, morality learned as a child? What's the difference between morality and ethics? Didn't think there'd be a quiz side, but I had to Google it, so I'm for about. Can you guess?
Morality is the right and wrong, ethics are the shades of gray.
Oh, I like that. Okay. Morality is right and wrong, ethics are the shades of gray. Oh, the fuck on. No, versus ethics.
Ethics is mostly the rights. Right is a debate.
Well, I Google some of the definitions that I came up with. The extra lucky go Google this. I'm not alone. Morality is something that develops within us, and is our sense of right and wrong, is our sense of justice, sense of equality, all of that. Ethics are more collective. That's when a community deciding what is saying for the community. So for the license that I pulled, like we have an ethics section of our board, right? And I'm responsible to uphold those ethics that were decided upon in this survey. So morality is within us, and unity is where with the ethics. And that is really in line with this stage of identity role. That's what they're working on. They're working on who they're going to be. They're working on understanding who people are, and what are they going to look like in the future group. So adolescents who give this a definition, and most places where you would look will have definition contaminated as the age range for adolescents. More recently, there's been a push. So this gets mass rates for me. Oh, there's been a push to extend adolescence, or to triple extended adolescence, because actually our brains are still developing until we're about 24, 25, and it's not necessarily how many years you've been on the planet. It really is about how our brains are functioning. And I think this is important to note because there are we in our society, you expect these high schoolers at the age of 18 to be an adult. And they're often facing adult decisions in adult situations. But if adolescence doesn't end till they're 24 and 25, you might be asking them to do more than what they're capable. So really want to think about what our both adolescent brain is capable of, what to accept. Not what they can. And I don't know about you, but early 20s, we're bucked for a lot of folks. They're not really free. And I think that is part of it with this. the world, especially the video though, we still look models. And so, you guys have been that us this for many years, so I'm preaching to the choir of this. These are the kinds of the frees that you experience. You're in that lesson body tools. Your brain's changing. There are things that we're going to focus on tonight are really about identity. And during this time, adolescence, they're fit orphed, where the adolescent year trees eat. They just wow that whatever do it to us someday. Right? Really concerned with self. And at the same time concerned with others. And what others how they're gonna appear to others, how you're gonna fit in. And we're a little thing to be really working on yourself, ain't worried about competitor accusing phrases. Says, it could be in 20. And that's what Erickson says adolescence is all about. So this is true. Adolescence. This is why middle school sucks. This is when it really starts, and you're all trying to figure it out. And a lot of this stuff is to continue into high school. High school is kind of level up on Cresco. So when you start in middle school, you can see a dip in confidence as that internal struggle is started. And the adolescent is starting then to get ideas of self, putting that into place, starting to form their path, so that by the time they get to high school, they're a little bit more confident. They have a little bit better understanding of themselves. And so you survived a really rough patch, and now it's going to be a little different. Expect that leap to living a little different in high schoolers than it has looked in the middle schoolers. And so that push-pull that is on the inside, is the adolescents are going through, is that the struggle that we're trying to figure out, and the reward or the virtue that'll be with the end is fidelity. What does that mean? I had to Google this while again too, so don't feel like it. Be thoughts as the fidelity he was in this context. It's not a bummer. You do remain true to yourself, know who you are, and how that is the foundation. Take this self, out into the world. Sorry about that. So that's putting any pressure on it, but it's pretty one time. And I'd about that. Right? Because they're reason tapped to what they're interested in overall. Thoughts on any of this so far? I kind of blitzed them through it. Makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Makes you feel like what we're saying experiences is normal.
It's not just us. Yeah, they become a fully Greekers to it. What happened? I mean, it's up in my turn. What happened to my kid? They're working stuff. Anybody else feel better? So, transition to high school. I can't even imagine the pressure for students today. What do you think? What do you think are some of the biggest pressures in high school? This is again, we always win at. I can be very quiet for extended. This is your warning that I'm really comfortable playing this game.
Academics, but they didn't work, bro.
Academics, getting the work done. Period for college. Oh, social activities.
I know, Daddy.
Maybe with others, hang out. Online presence, social media, sports, college scholarships, college applications, thinking about next steps if it's not college. fantastic. You get the job. What do you want if you grow up? There's a lot of pressure on this. And some of that stuff we can relate to. The newer in high school, I think. But we also were walking around with computers. Right? They give us access to everything, even with the occasional needs. I don't know about you. Doors of my high school were not locked. I did tomato doors. Lahat de chili doors. That's what they do. It's the way it's changed. Parts of graceful habits, but the world was different. And so figuring out how adolescence looks in this world now real different. And so what used to work for us, I wouldn't pull that card too often. Because I don't know if I really don't know what you said. I'm starting adolescence will and talk about things that they are now able to do where it able to ratchet busy cells. Another trick 7 iOS trigger, they're able to has science or the what they happen below and really understand some process. Translation to that is they can argue. They can build really good arguments. As they start to figure out things for themselves, that turns in that amplifies egocentrism, because the only person in the world that could ever understand me would say that any person who experienced this, then there's nobody you can relate to, because this is all about me. Eric had this idea of that. What is imaginary audience, where teens were getting ready to thinking about this imaginary audience, what the audience will think of about the clothes that I'm wearing, or how my haircut is, or how I play my sports. Right? Difference now is that audience isn't imagining. The audience is very real, and they're putting themselves out there in very vulnerable ways. In the public, whereas before, in our old days, we're just in our head. And now it's in our head and to reinforce on these computers that are in our pockets. Yeah. There's a lot of pressure and stress on these bits. Lots. And so I think just Andrew really thinking about their world, their environment, who is different from ours, beat you a few steps ahead in connecting steps. We won't talk about that. Is connecting with high schoolers is so different from connecting with not nerd bears. So for high school, I think one of the most important things I'll ask for ourselves in any situation is, what's the goal? So when you think of your kiddo going through high school, what's the goal for you? What do you think the goal is for you? Because what?
Okay, that's a parent or you want to this permission data.
Supportive of their goals. Yeah, over elevating actually. So we want to be supportive. What else is a goal for you, or you think a goal for your kid has?
For us, we want our daughter to be really challenged, and she doesn't want to be challenged. She wants to have the least challenge throughout high school.
So what's the right now, child? That must challenge and push her to continue learning, but that very afterwards she marks. I admire that.
Code is they should see other things and then they try to find out which is good fit for them.
Yeah.
But for them, be like this, so we'll just go with it. They don't want to try these stuff.
It's hard to stop, yeah. To have them encourage that wandering, having encourage safe experimentation, safe exploration. You can ask it one more time, because I always ask things at these 3 counts. Any other thoughts on what your goals for you as a grade school of a high schooler? or for your kids. Are you going into high school? I'm gonna pick on you. You have goals for high school? And what do you think it's gonna be like? Fun, I get it. Yeah? Better than middle school? How was middle school? Do you give a thumbs up or thumbs down? Who's 3 people that liked it? Almost 3. Yeah. So it'll be fun. What else are you hoping to get out of high school?
This is like much larger than usual high schools, so
It's a
will make
really big building. Are there really 3 floors? Yeah. Okay.
so I'm just excited to kind of, just try out. It looks like a college is what a college back is like. So
Thanks for being brave. I'm letting the cake on you a little bit. I promise I won't try and get it too much. But, odds are your goals might be slightly different, but that's okay. You're supposed to. But I think this is a good question to ask, right? It can plant some seeds for them. Think about what their experience in B school is going to be, and it's going to give you more information on what their goals are, right? And that's just more information for you. Because as your goal as a parent changes, it's helpful if we can get more information from our kiddos. Might be a fun question to have one night at dinner. Order pizza at family night. Talk about goals, coach. Independence level up. So we touched in middle school, there's a little dip in self-confidence. And there's a yawn to high school, I start in me a little bit more so. So they become better at using that scientific method, but now understand the heads, you can argue things, and they're starting to really, really figure out how it works. Right? And the relationship changes. I had a professor in graduate school that called adolescents the vinegar years. Because they get a little vinegar. And allegedly that's there for a reason too. We're supposed to want them to go away a little bit and give ourselves some distance so they can continue on the next steps. But it's gonna be a real struggle of having privacy and respecting privacy. It's still staying connected and knowing what's going on. And that's a tough thing to balance. Luckily I'm to teach you, of course, later. How do you see your role as a parent changing in high school? Like some of the nuts and bolts of what change.
I think they're going to have a lot more autonomy, especially once they get the driver's license, or you see less and less of them and losing that ability to impact the decision making and kind of giving that over to the parents. When that happens, that's going to be hard.
Freedom! Yeah. I think we got to trust them. And it's very different trust than on the first day of kindergarten, we put them on the bus. Somebody else driving, right? But as a pretender, why don't they roll? But now they're behind the driver's seat. Yeah. Totally different for you. And we have to trust in their ability to manage situations that can have long-term consequences because they're in that environment. And we have less control over that. That's tough, though. How else do you see your role as a parent today?
Coupling more of a coach than coach player.
Yeah. So I have the coach cheerleader, right? What do you think the difference is in Ballard? Do you ever heard of that analogy with parenting?
I think of a cheerleader on the sidelines, they're cheering no matter what's going on in the gaming, whereas a coach is like, we gotta reconfigure and do something else. With cheerleader kind of blindly just cheers.
Blindly cheers, right? They're gonna just point a touchdown. You're gonna get real excited. They're gonna be real happy. And as parents, we definitely fall into the cheerleader a lot, right? But as our kiddos get older, cheerleading role is less and less. As they know that you can have cheer priority in their confidence and easily discredit. Because the cheerleader doesn't know why it was a good touchdown. The cheerleader doesn't know that you've been working on a slant run, anything like that. and to get the touchdown. Been working on that all week. The coach does. The coach knows.
Football coach is not very. Okay.
That sounded good. They've been working to make sure you're not offsides every time, right? The coach knows what you're really working on and can say, hey, I saw how you did this thing. You're doing it in practice and it paired off the work. That's what gets up. You notice the little thing that they've been working on, and you're not just the default cheerleader. Well, because they are tuning that out. I think we also fall into the cheerleader mode when we try and fix it. I guess pictures on the website. Make sure that I just vote in a turkey, wiry. And it's hard not to. Because we don't want to see him struggle. We don't want to see him hurt. So if I can fix it, I'll save him. Turns out fixing, like fixing helps us feel good. It's not very supporting our kiddos. And so figuring out your limit, your threshold, as they are reaching out with all this new autonomy and independence, you're going to have to give up a lot of our control, right? But you're still a parent. So where do you intervene? Where do you step in? And it's hard to know, Beth. So I think as a parent, we always get to play the parent part. And the parent part is you get to do what you want as a parent in any situation that you want on your kids. Which one caveat that with the understanding is that you are doing it for you, not necessarily your kiddo. So if you are stepping in to fix it or save the situation, you're doing that for you. And I think it's good to ask ourselves, what's the goal? Why are we stepping in here? Because when we step in too quickly and fix it, we don't allow them to fail, to struggle, to change. High school is all about changing. And so we want them to be able to balance that, right? We want them to figure out how to pick themselves up after they're not successful, after they get a bad grade after their class, after they have a fight with their friend. We want to let them sit in that. And parents, we have to learn how we're going to balance ourselves, letting them sit back. But you get to decide for yourself what your thresholds are. So if the expectation in your house is that everybody gets at least a C or better, but 30 C's. And if they started dipping down into the D range, then you have already decided that's where you need to step in. Because for you, that is not, you are not culpable of that. But you can't do this on the fly. Think about your thresholds, general and expectations, especially when it comes to academics or getting a car, those kinds of things. Where are your thresholds? Let it be known, too. I mean, don't hide it, because then everybody knows what to expect. Because if my kids know that I'm going to start getting on the phone if their dates go below a certain point, that's hopefully going to be motivated you put down. And we'll talk about how to talk about that in a little bit. Have you guys ever heard of the theory, the good enough parent? I mean, don't you guys feel like the expectations for parents is really high? Really, really high? Do you feel like you're living up to it? I know I'm not. I don't even try. Right? And this is one of the reasons why I don't have social media, because the pressure is intense. Right? I mean, if you see what Jimmy's doing, he's playing 4 sports and speaks 7 languages. And then Gertrude over there, she's like, I don't know, raising cows and chickens and things. And my kid rides a skateboard. Right? I mean, you can kind of feel that. Why? right? And so I think we get abused a little bit with this really high expectation of parenting. Well, there's a psychologist or psychiatrist in England in the 60s who came up with this theory of the thin enough. And man, do I embrace that. Because it turns out the bar for parenting is actually kind of low. If you provide basic necessities, if you talk to them every now and then, if you let them know you'll like them, right? And that, you give them a key to the front door. It does someplace you go, right? They can come to you, right? You've given them everything they need to be successful on their own. That is not what the world is telling us. And it's probably not what we think. But I think overall, good enough right now is not a compliment in today's world. But man, I wear it like a badge of honor. I just want to be a bit rough. Because I don't want to be the best commercial, I want to be a perfect good best. That's so short. Or work that hard. And it's going to be their life. Yeah, it's that over the low. When I think when we start letting go of some things, turning it over to them, that's when the relationship really starts to choose. Because then we're not the cheerleader, we're not guiding them. We're more the mentor, more the coach. They have office hours. They can come to us as leader. We need to follow that. Good enough. Just consider it. Think about it. It's really free when you get there. And it's kind of contagious because then you stop looking up like, oh, what's the best water bottle to get, right? You have a way to Stanley. No, what's it good enough, right? So, usually when I give these talks, I talk about how I should parenting input. I don't know about yours, but mine got lost in the mail. And how better it would be if it was a manual. And I found one. Hey, I believe in it so much, I'm going to put it here. So you Google something, you Google this. And so I like a credible explanation. So on the index. And so this comes from MIT. Like I would say for adults. And they've taken a whole bunch of data on some research budgets for parenting analysts. And I just love the language, the dates, needs, bushel. And I just love the wording that they use, and they give you examples, which is so great. Like most of the things about their world are changing. Don't let your love be one of them. Absolutely, right? And so it's very approachable, and it gives examples of how to practice some of this in your day-to-day life, of when to do some of these things that they're suggesting. I could probably do a 3-hour talk on just the stuff that's in this booklet, but so it's a really good resource for you guys to take away with you. And one of them, oops. Loosen up, but don't let go. So, with full on tape. Think about when you're walking and you're carrying something and you trip. Our natural reaction is to hold on tight to whatever it is we've got in our hand, fear that we're going to drop it or fear that we're going to lose it. Right? And as our kids go into adolescence and they start to pull away from us, we can start to hold on tighter and we'll see worms. That's all we know as parents, is holding on tight. And so how can we keep from doing that? Like, how can we loosen that grip enough that we give them safe ways to experience the world? Still leave the door open and they catch it with them. But so, tell me over to that. So I just like the analogy. If you're going to release something, hold on to it really tight. And fighting that instinct I think is a big part of what parenting adolescents. I think the world goes around because of connection. The connection is so important in everything. And it is hard to connect with adolescents because they're pulling away from. So some of the things that I talk about in this Raising Twos is going to be really helpful. But it gives you really good examples of how to stay connected as they're pulling away. And I think that connection, I think that the thing is also built on communication and having a solid way to communicate. So there's this model of communication, and if you didn't grab one of these, that here. And so, I did a lot of work in the eviction bureau many years ago, and this was the model of communication that I taught for years and years. I love it because it's easy, it's effective, and once you start doing it, I can't not do it now. I can't turn it off. Like, it just is how I communicate. And I think it's simple, but easy to remember. And for some families that they have this up on their refrigerator, or if they're going to have a hard conversation at home, I put it on a table to help everybody remember some of the suggestions for communication. So, as the highest model of communication, only 4 things to remember. You do not have to do them all. You do not have to do them in any particular order. In fact, I give 2 that I want you to focus on. We'll talk about how to do that, but there are really no rules to doing it. They're suggestions, and you're not going to get it perfect, but you're just going to keep trying. And I think once it clicks, it becomes, you don't have to work very hard at it. So the first thing is state what you want, and in a positive way. If you notice some of your communication with your kids, especially when they do something that you don't want them to do, don't leave your shoes by the door, in front of the door. Tell them what not to do, right? And a simple rephrasing of what actually is the expectation. What do we want them to do? And say it in a nice way. So if you're coming in hot, take a minute, think about it, gather yourself, and then come back to it. It is dial back the temperature a little bit just to state what you want, even instead of what you don't want. You can go really far. I statement. What's an I statement? I feel. Yeah. We're just talking about understanding statements. What do you think understanding statements are? Understanding statement is, we're also going to call that empathy. And so an understanding the statement, the goal is to show somebody that you see it from their perspective. You get what their experience is. You understand what they're going through. And the great thing about understanding statements, great thing about empathy, is you don't have to agree with them. And you can still be effective at doing it. Right? Let's see. It's so hard to come up with an understanding statement on the spot. I know that he's in baseball is a superior sport. And it brings you a lot of joy. And I'm glad you've got that in your life. I hate baseball. It's so boring. It makes me want to poke my eyeballs out. Right? It's like costing nothing to say, hey, I see how important this is for you. I don't have to agree with it. Right? So in conflict with friends, it'd be hard not to have an opinion about our kids' friends, especially when they're not treating them well. And so we want to jump in and fix it in those situations. I want to challenge you to lead with empathy. Sounds like that really hurt. I'm sorry your friend wasn't your friend. I've had an I statement. I'm sorry. But just showing that you get it from their perspective. What do you think they're thinking? What do you think their experience is? And the great thing about this is even if you're wrong, it doesn't matter. Because you still feel like you will still feel like, they will still feel like you are trying to understand them, like you're trying to get them. And if you're wrong, those see the right information are closer to it. Odds are they'll correct you. And the last one is share responsibility or offer help. So in a lot of roles and a lot of things that happen as parents, we had a part in it, usually. And if we own our part in it, especially with adolescents, man, does that go a long way. Because if we don't, adolescents, they smell hypocrisy, you're in trouble. As they're going to use that scientific thinking and really come at you harder. And they're good at arguing. So if you can own your part in it, awesome. But we don't always have a part in it. And so if you didn't, is there anything I can do to help? Right? When my kids would hit on each other and one of them would get hurt, I couldn't fix it. But hey, I'm sorry that hurt. Is there anything I can do to help? Anything I can do to make you feel better? Right? I didn't cause it. But I asked if I could help. So those are the 4 easy things to remember. If you live in I statements and understanding statements, you will be successful in 90% of your implementation, if not higher. And if you lead with understanding statements, that's the hook that's actually going to get them to engage it. How long do you think you have in terms of time before your adolescent decides they're going to listen, participate, or not? How many? 30 seconds. 30 seconds? What else? So sure. 7. Oh. And if your kiddo's neurodivergent, we're gonna take 4 seconds. We're gonna take 2 seconds about that. You have 4 seconds. So if they have ADHD like me, you don't even get the full 7 minutes. You have a sentence to get across what you want to say before they decide to tune you out. 1 sentence. But what do we do as parents? Ramble. We ramble. Why do we ramble? Oh. We build our case. And if we just give them all of the information, they will see the right choice to make. Rose, if you just build that case, then how could they make a law choice? Well, because they're not listening to her. They have no idea what you said. So you have 7 seconds at best. So instead of build your case, which only works in a court of law, start with the end. What's the goal? What do you hope to accomplish? But first, if you could start with an understanding statement, that's going to keep the defenses from going up. Hey, kiddo, you have time for a quick chat? Every adolescent's response, whoop, I didn't do it. Not me. Walls go up. But if we can start with an understanding statement, if you show them that, you see them, you get it from that perspective, it's going to open the door a little bit, and those walls might come down. And that's when you have your 7 seconds. So make it a good sentence. Thoughts on that? Questions on that? I realize I see that really quick, but it's not real complicated. Makes sense. Seem approachable.
The thing that makes me think is it's not really conducive to winging it anymore. You got to really plan the conversations.
A lot of times, yeah. Especially there's time and place for winging it too, and it can be fun. And I think that as you build confidence in your communication, you'll probably be more comfortable when we're there. But I'm a big fan of the duties and functionally, and so really, like, what is the goal? If you can just ask that of yourself before you go into just about any situation, I think writing an ER, sending the text, is so helpful. And so a little bit of intention, especially around communication, especially with adolescents, really will pay off. Other thoughts on communication? Has communication changed with your kiddos as they've gone through middle school and all that? Yeah. How's it going?
There's less of it.
Less of it?
Headphones are always on, so just getting their attention. Your speaking to them now is hard.
Well, you mentioned before the arguments, it's like they already have it planned out in their head. The argument.
They're experts on you. Yeah. They know how to argue. They know what buttons to push. One of the big in the adolescent handbook, there's a whole chapter on how to piss off your parents. Because if you can piss them off and you get into an argument, you're gonna get away with it. It works. Right there, they're experts on you. They know what buttons to push you when to push. And then they get smarter about it, and then they start using it against you real bad. And communication gets harder. But I think stuff like this can be really helpful. Look at me, Liz. I'm staying on time. I'm so proud of you. I know. It's hard. Rest. No, we're doing it tonight. So, the logistics of transitioning to high school. And if any of you at some of the middle school talks to, a lot of the same stuff, because the logistics aren't that different. I think the thing that is really different, I suppose, that the difference between transition to middle school and transition to high school is the changes you have to go through as a parent, as your kiddos take even bigger steps away. And the steps in middle school, they're smaller steps. They gain that confidence. And in high school, big steps, sometimes sprints, and how to balance that. And so I think that's when it comes down to communication and taking all of the simplifications they have, and this may be really helpful. But as far as the transition to high school, the nuts and bolts, you guys have already done it once in the middle school, so you kind of have a little bit of experience. Is the things that are important then are also going to be important now. A system of organization. Did anybody feel like you had a good system? Your kiddos had a good system for being organized in middle school? With planners and calendars and adult books?
One that was provided, not one that they used.
One that was provided, but not one they used. Dashing my dreams. I was like, oh, they'll figure it out in middle school. Yeah. Anybody else have a good system that they use?
Yeah, my son used notes whenever he wants to use.
Yes. Based upon his priority.
Yeah. Anybody else have any good systems or any systems that you tried using? Start talking about it. And start talking about it before school starts. All right. Give yourself a little bit of a summer break. Then about halfway through, as we're getting closer to August, start really thinking about the transition and preparing yourself for school again in the fall. So talk about organization. What does organization look like? How do you get organized today? Share that with them. I'm biased in a certain perspective in how I look at organization, because my brain doesn't fit well into other molds, and so I have to do my own thing all the time. And some people are really good at taking a system of organization that already exists, but you kiddos may not do well with that. I certainly don't. And so talk about what organization looks like and what organization may look like for them specifically. And if you can have one that you can tweak a little bit to support for needs as needs range and as skills increase, even better. And if organization is something that starts to fall by the wayside, give yourself permission to go back to it and pick it up again. Try again. I love that phrase, try again. Let's try this again. So real quick, fill things out. don't work. In my brain, I'll do something great for a couple of months, and then it kind of falls off. But a big part of going back to it is being my self-progression to go back to it. But it's great to talk about as a family. Because a family is going to be involved in some of it, right? And especially in high school where, correct me if I'm wrong, high school teachers, but the high school principals don't really want to hear from you guys. They mostly want to hear from the students. And so your ability to impact the classroom experience is going down. And so how can we encourage them to have more autonomy in their classes and in their communication? So maybe it means sitting next to them and helping them craft the email for a teacher to get them practice to do it. You may not come from you, but you can certainly support them in doing it. Where do they study? When is study time? Especially for extracurriculars. But talking about the nuts and bolts so that everybody has the same expectations to Wednesday. And where to. Because studying in your bed when you're laying out and you're tweeting or doing TikToks, you can get a whole lot of stuff. So having we squeeze you on setting some of this stuff out. Even as high schoolers, clean out your backpacks. Talk with them first. And we want to make sure that we respect their privacy. And I think it's good to start talking privacy versus secrets. Privacy is something that is important. Everybody gets it. And let's talk about it as it becomes more and more important to our teens and our adolescents so that we're all on the same page. But things get lost in backpack. They crumple up in there. There are some treasures each we find in there. And when I'm working with an adolescent, I always have them bring their backpack in and we clean it out. Just to help with organization, planners, and to see what may have been missed. And if you don't have a place in your house to see it, it's dropped. Like I have to put my keys and my wallet in the exact same place every time, otherwise I will leave them. It's really important to do that with your kiddos too. And it can be by the front door. You can also have a space for that for them in their rooms too. That all goes with the organization and planning. What are expectations for academics? We'll talk about it. Especially if you haven't had those kinds of conversations in middle school. Grades have a different importance in high school as people are looking to college and steps beyond. And so talk about what the expectations are. Talk about that. Where are some places that we can really encourage them to take risks? Safe box, right? What are some sports they can go out for? What are some clubs they can get involved with? Those kinds of things. It takes a little bit of work on our end to know the stuff that's available out there. So we actually have to read the emails of the schools. For us to have that, right? Then we can talk about. Yeah. I see it, or a lot of my work I talk about superpowers that especially neurodivergent kiddos have. And it's not limited to just using neurodivergent community to have superpowers. We all have it. What are your superpowers? How do you use them? What are your kids' superpowers? How do they use it? Start talking about it. It's going to help them identify their own strengths so that they can intentionally connect the dots as to when they're using their superpowers. And it's okay to talk about where they struggle. Because we all do. I don't like using the term weaknesses. I like struggles. Because some classes are just going to be a struggle. So, how can we support you where you struggle? What's some scaffolding we can provide? And let's just start talking about how your brain works and what it's really good at in places where it does struggle a little bit. It's not a bad thing. It's reality. Was that it? Well, come here as often as you can, whenever the orientations are. Come check out the buildings. All proof lights. But right? Get your hand on the map. Map out the how to get to class. How much time do they have between classes? 7 minutes. That seems like that's generous. It's a big building. Yeah. That is true. There are 3 floors. One school I was talking about, they have 3 minutes. Just so you get to have a sprint. 6. And about halfway through the summer, when you start looking at the fall, you start thinking about organization, start then with a routine. What is a realistic bedtime? What is a realistic wake-up time? What's that going to work? No. Are they going to wake themselves up? Or are you going to help them with that? It's a team effort at the beginning, and then you kind of work yourself out and let them be successful and not on their own. What happens if they sleep through their alarm? That might be something they get to experience and learn from, and it's okay to let them. Is that okay, teacher? So I just said
So it's great. At our house, you're gonna make us both late if you're sleeping through your alarm. So it's like, let's get going.
Oh yeah, my kids, one 5th grade, another's in 2nd grade. They ride the bus because we're just outside of a mile away from the school, but they know if they miss the bus, they are walking. I'm not driving them. They know that. I haven't missed the bus once. Because they also believe me when I tell them. I feel like that's good for the hour. But that's all the stuff.
You got it?
And there's some other things for Q&A that we can...
Yeah.
We
always like to lead to about the half an hour for Q&A because that's always the time where I feel like is the most beneficial sometimes because we get to this chat.
Yeah.
I do have Lisa Kelly here. She's been through the transition twice now. So she's going to speak from a parent perspective, and you've been in your shoes and what's been helpful. We were talking about some of the things up there, and she was thinking, if I had 4 things, they're right there. Yeah, hooray. And then also Gigi Bellavo is here, and I think most of you met her. She's a principal, so thanks for being here, and so she can kind of help talk from the school perspective. And then I'm not going to make you guys work tonight. You guys are parents, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did cross that line earlier.
All right. They get to be parents. So I do about their learners. Yes. But I did have some questions from the registration form, but let's just kind of open it up to things that are rolling around for you and things that you're kind of struggling with right now or questions that you guys have. So here, open that up. I think my biggest struggle right now is that privacy versus like safety, like where that boundary is of checking messages and social media sites and things to see if there's something going on that I'm not being told about versus giving privacy and allowing some of that development. That seems like a really, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
There's some really good information on that in here. And it talked about how, and it gives you permission to check your kids' social media, that it is okay to do so. And so I would follow some of the tips in there and talk to your kids about ISD and what that means to them and what that means to you. Because if you have wildly different ideas about what privacy is, best to figure that out before it becomes an issue.
Yeah. And I know my parents, you own the phone. Yeah, you pay for it. Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. But I feel like as we move into high school, there's an expectation from their end that there's more privacy that's given. And I don't know that I feel completely comfortable with that. I feel like the AC earned as well. So but I think your points are, we need to have that conversation and decide what those boundaries are. So there's no surprises about it. Yeah. Some really good contracts online too. You just social media contracts for high school students. Yeah. And then you guys can be really clear about what they are. And you ask for the phone, you can tap out passwords, and yeah, you're going to give them their privacy, but you're also there in case they need anything. Yeah. Because you're there to help you to parent, keep them safe. Yeah. Yeah. I think so much of that goes back to how you speak to them.
My kids, I have a senior and a freshman, and a lot of it's just like, hey, I'm not trying to cramp your style. I get it. You want your privacy or whatever, but also
I have to keep you safe. That is my job. So this is not going to be fun. I have to do it. I'm not screaming. I'm not yelling. I'm not. But you're their ally too.
Yes,
you're on
I'm on our team, but I am your parent.
And I think that's one of those things that you want to avoid doing for the first time on the fly, right? Of not doing it when there's a big issue, an emergency. So having that conversation. before him. Yeah, just plays that drawer.
Insane spell on the head. Our child struggles, and I would say maybe not struggles. There might be some narrative improvements there with organization. It is not her superpower. It is the struggle, and we have yet to find a system, or for her to be able to vocalize a system that works, that I see work. And I feel like that's maybe one of our hardest things over the summer, trying to find a system. Do you have any suggestions and of different ways that, because I would like for her to suggest things, but I'm not sure that she's explored it enough to understand what to look for.
Yeah, no, she doesn't have any experience. Yeah, even to know what questions to ask. Yeah, right. So I like to think of what they had up at this price. I would start with a blank notebook. What that looks like. A notebook that they enjoy using, that they pick out, that they have ownership over, and to just start. Yeah, and see how they use it. For me, I have 2 pages that I keep open that is a week, and every week. And so that is where if I lose that, oh, I'm in big trouble, but then very far from me. And so it's something that they adapt and change as they go. Because if it is a predetermined thought, and some kids will do great with that. Some kids like that. It's comfortable. Not all kids will. And if you're worried about your kiddo doing that, start with just a blank notebook and see how they go, how they use it, and have it even a size that they can take with them.
Yeah.
And the thing I think that's most important about staying organized is having a way to capture the information and then organize it. And so maybe during the school day, they're just capturing the information in class. And then at home, you can go through and organize it in the planner so that it looks a little bit better. You kind of develop an organizational system that way. And a lot of trial and error, but capture, then organize. That's all.
Marriage. Or she and it's like she's not following ours.
Yeah, I mean, like we have the calendar on a phone, and like we put tons of stuff on it, and we expect her to use that calendar and know when she is ready for things, and when we expect her to see that calendar, know what she needs to do with that calendar, and that's not working for us. So we need to let her pick something, and then we'll adapt to her system of organization.
So you know what I've just learned too? Again, senior, freshman,
Yeah.
girl, boy, extremely responsible. And like, we're trying to figure things out over here. What I have learned though is she really was down here at one point, and they grow. They will not always be this insane. They change so much. These juniors and seniors are so different than these little freshmen. So hang in there. It's not going to be forever. That's my big picture.
And I think the work that you put into it, helping them initially too, like it might require a lot more effort on your part first 6 months of school, will then pay off as they then have that strong foundation and then do as a much more. Yeah.
I think that routine was a really big part, especially if she's not, very organized to where if there's a routine, and there's this, even a study time. I mean, that feels a little middle school. However, I think high school, the same. What do you think? 3 hours? 2 hours homework? What do you think?
I think it depends on the student or class as in when they're taking.
Talking about their freshman. Couple hours. Oh, look at me. Okay. Well, anyways, just maybe a time where this one we're doing homework, because that helps with that organization piece too. Yes. Because it feels the same.
One thing to think about too is the course catalog. Actually, once the kids get their schedules, if you look in there and it says how many hours of homework to expect, and then add that up, and that's really helpful to use as a guide, because depending upon which electives your kids choose, that might be more or less.
There's a really cool little is it still in there in the schedule? Yeah, where you can actually line out, get classes, and then how much time added up. So it's right there, all planned of for registration.
Well, and I think Jen's right. Like it totally depends on your kid. Some of these kids, they just don't need that much time. And others, it just takes a lot longer.
As far as the organizational piece, one of the best leverage points I've seen is have them talk to their friends. Because when a friend has a strategy that works and it might resonate with them, the more they can crowdsource those type of strategies amongst each other, they find something that works organically for them. So like when our daughter has her friends over and they're talking at school, or like I try and force those conversations and try to bring it up because I want to know. That's what I tell them. But really, I want them to talk about it and discuss it because that's honestly where you get probably the most impactful change.
And how you can leverage the screen time, because there's videos about everything. And there's like study TikToks and weird things that she doesn't have any of that. She just has Pinterest. She get to that kind of stuff. And they're like, what do you want me? Oh, it's this girl, she's studying. This is how she, organizes her notes. And I'm like,
Study bots. No, there was one about our ensembles, or cell phone policy, thinking about cell phone. So during class, cell phones are away. So boxes, yeah. So so they need to be engaged in class and not on their phones. So that's a new thing this year.
It's been going really awesome. Did you say? Yes. But the kids love it too.
What about other devices like nature or picking? That okay?
kids have their own computers. You can have them from the school, or kids can bring their own device. So, like in middle school, I think every kid has a school-issued computer. Is that right? And at high school, they can't bring their own device if you so choose.
Can we have multiple devices?
Or kids do. Yeah. It's not super common, but
It's difficult to keep them charged. That's what I'll tell you. And yeah, if you have something that it's like a Chromebook or connects like a Chromebook, it generally, everything works a little bit smoother with my experience.
And are you thinking about what they're watching YouTube or something during one has the device? Is that what you were kind of thinking about, or?
No, I just find it so much easier to take notes digitally. Cool. So I was thinking about introducing that to my son, seeing how that works, but I wanted to make sure it was a little afraid school.
I've had Apple products to the Wi-Fi in the district building, so just be aware of that.
we're an Android district.
Okay, is it now? No.
I'd love to know, I feel like when you step into parenthood, there's so many, you should read this book and you should, I would love to know, is there something that any of you guys would highly recommend that, hey, if there's one book or there's one resource that I think would help you kind of in line with all of this stuff, I would love to have something like that, because I feel like the more I can immerse myself in this and how it's got to kind of change my thinking as a parent, I feel like the more naturally it's going to happen too. If that makes sense.
I have one that I'm reading right now, and everybody in the world needs to read it. It's called Let Them.
Oh yeah,
by Mel Robbins. And there needs to be a kid version as well for teenagers. And it's just this magical idea that's not new. But let them have the experience. Let them fail. Let them, because they're going to learn something from that. And then let you do. I mean, you have a life too, doesn't need to all revolve around your child. Right. But that's my book, I would say.
That's kind of the same, what's that old book about natural consequences? I can't remember it. It's been around forever, but it's the same thing. Just let it happen. And when Liz asked me to do this, I was like, but she said yes. I'm so excited. But one of my biggest things, so I actually work in the front office too here, so I see a lot. And one of my biggest things is parents who are, it was on your previous slide, the solving, the swooping, the keeping them safe, not letting them experience, ooh, you missed the bus. Now what are you gonna do? Or it's probably not gonna maim or kill them to have some hardship. So letting them experience some of the consequences of you stayed up really late last night and I'm not going to like let you sleep in and be late to school and it's gonna be a hard day. Yeah, it's gonna be a hard day, you know. So
You're gonna hate my advice. So, is, my advice is to trust your instincts. I like that. Yeah. Books can provide some amazing information that looks like a resource. But you know your kid best. You know your family best. And trust your instincts. They're there for a reason. And I think in all of the research and reading I have done, a general consensus is if they have the capacity to do something, let them do it. Do you find yourself stepping in, doing things that they have the capacity to do? That's when we're stepping in and doing it. Fix it. Letting them experience it.
And this then puts me in the good enough Eric. So for my start first,
Are putting them at a disadvantage if we swoop in and take over, because we're not giving them those chances to learn and grow.
and really what we're saying is I don't think he can. I don't believe he is. And that's not the message I want to send to my kids.
And sometimes it's hard because they're not very good at it, or they don't do it the way that they're raised, or it takes it forever. Right? And so, but that is not their issue, that's our issue. And so we find ways that ye can balance our discomfort. And that'll be.
I'm sitting in 2 situations right now with my son, my crush nun. And I told my husband literally just about an hour ago, oh, it's making you crazy. I would not do it this way. I think she's making a huge mistake. And you're going to sit and let him do it.
Because he's not in danger.
No.
Yep. And all of those.
I just think you're going to like bite him in the backside and this is going to do it.
Then we're comfortable. So they're comfortable because swoop in. They're not changing. They're not adapting or apping it all. Whether they're going to be with you for a very long term.
If you want to do that for many, many years to come, you just keep right on.
when I feel like so much of it is I want my kids to fail while they're at home, while we can help work through anything before they're all of a sudden out on their own. And then they have no coping skills because you coddled them all the way through. It's like, no, we have to let go.
And by letting go and turning over them, you still develop a connection right with them, right? Really is more of an adult connection as they're making that transition. And you still can support your adult kids. It's just going to look different. Yeah.
I think that empathy piece is really important because when they mess up and they come to you and they don't really want to, and the response that you give is going to say they're going to do that again. They're going to come to you the next time they mess up, put yourself in their shoes, they're learning, and then go.
And if you mess up, own it. My kiddo, which did tryouts for the middle school dance team, and actually was waiting. Oh, I hope I make it. I'm so worried I'm not going to make it. And the first words out of my mouth were, Ellen, no, you've got everything to be proud of. You worked so hard. I'm so proud of you. Everything's going to be fine. And then I thought about it. I'm like, that was no. I'm like, 30 seconds. I'm like, Ella, what I just said was wrong. I said, I'm sorry. I hope you get it too. And it's okay if you don't, you're sad. I'm going to be sad too. I'm going to keep thinking positive thoughts, and I still have high hopes. But if you're worried, it's good. And so sometimes we have to catch ourselves. I do this all day long, every day, and I still mess up, right? Because this stuff is hard. And so give yourself a little bit of grace too on being a good enough parent. And if you start catching yourself, you're already 10 steps involved in a good enough parent. You're here tonight. You're already many steps.
And you found it.
Yeah.
My take on that, the role as a supportive adult, and this is giving triggering for some folks, but I describe it as a trauma coordinator. You want to give them just enough difficulty to where they feel like they're not going to be able to make it, but make sure they have the tools that they can so they can come out the other side and realize it was all their responsibility at the end of it anyways. So that's the hard part is you got to trust your instincts to be able to find that sweet spot to give them enough to where they don't drown, but also front load the skills to where they will be able to swim. So
In and out. You sound like, oh,
Jeez.
he also teaches freshmen up Pedro. Fantastic. Other questions?
Yeah, moving on the list. Let's see. One around balancing activities and homework. Extracurricular activities. How do you plan extracurricular activities around homework?
I think that all comes down to routine, right? And knowing what the routine is, and so that everybody has the same expectation, and having it out somewhere on this, stucco paper or something that you can put on the bridge that everybody can see, that we don't need a device to access, or if you accidentally brush against it, it's going to get erased, right? Something that you can actually look at that will not change, that everybody has. And so setting it up so you know what it looks like. I know what to expect. This is not something you want to be figuring out in the second week of school. This is something you want to be figuring out 5 weeks before school starts. And you have to practice it too. You have to tweak it. You can have great ideas, but then the reality it'll change, and that's okay. You gotta do what works, but get started.
I was just going to say, I heard somebody say recently to, you make a plan, and then in 3 months, let's revisit. Is this even working? Is this going well? Maybe you just made the basketball team, and now, this all looks different. Okay, now what? And then another 3 months, or like, okay, season's over for the, whatever. You know what you get what I'm saying. But I can't revisit.
Bookends. Put bookends here, right? So the first 6 weeks of summer, right? Bookend those. I'm not going to worry about anything. But then on this date, we're going to look at the next 6 weeks before school gets started. And what's the most important thing in that chunk of time? Then on this date, we're going to look at the next 6 weeks, or whatever time frames, right? Put bookend on it so that you intentionally come back to it, take a look, tweets as necessary.
I have another one. What supports are available for students coping with anxiety that affects attendance and class participation? So definitely have our school counselors. We have 7 here.
Divided up by alpha. And then we have something called the Star Wellness Co. So a grade will be universally screened with that. And so looking at the goals that they have, the needs that they have, maybe supports that they need, and then they'll meet one-on-one with a G Wellness advocate to look at what they talked about and what needs or supports that they may want. So, and in that process, a lot of things kind of come to light that maybe have been hidden or just they really haven't talked about or thought about. And so gets them connecting with either a first team, or sometimes it's a club, sometimes it's a organization strategy, whatever it might be.
Any school team or parent, any other things that you can think about that were helpful for kiddos with? Wishes to visit your corporation come this girl?
Definitely communicating. I'm one of the attendance people here, and when we don't know what's happening, it's hard to be on board or help or whatever. So there's times where we get emails that's like, this kid's been absent for weeks and we don't know what's happening.
Just not respectful. But you guys are here, so you probably reach out if you need. But
talk to people. Your counselors are there for you. We have admin, deans.
There's a lot of people here that they know. And they want to. Yeah. So if you need something, reach out.
Is there a list of those people?
Yeah. Yep. There's a list circulating, you can put your email on there. I'll get Best slides too, and then I'll put others resources on them as well. So all the websites.
But defense suddenly different named up this.
Yes. Yeah, we're absolutely that. And then on my the website is so
Un's actually no, I had a copy of it.
Regulated visits the the processor. DSM beauty plus Columbus it fixed to the whole stage to question was that was school has all been 40 days.
So for this then, it must here. I said a teacher freshman night. I did just say it again and to help kids during this transition in the way that you can help them think that is just one foot that you would be willing to try at school and get them helped in. Because so often, part of the anxiety kids have then about coming into high school is, am I going to have a case to fit? Am I going to belong? So if you kind of, again, 5 weeks, 6 weeks ahead, start the kid about, get on the high school website. Wow, look at these 53 bumps they had last year. Here in all the sports. What might you want to try? And start thinking about that. They'll immediately get some friends. And oftentimes that really helps that transition advice.
And I always encourage our families to have the expectation to try something 3 times. You have to go to the thing 3 times to see if you like it. And if it's something that they're participating in, but they had a bad time and they want to quit, it's okay to quit, but we don't quit on a bad day. And so if you had a bad experience, you still got time to feel finter if you didn't have a good day, at least they become impacted, but without the bad day. And to try use the kids can commit to 3 beds.
It can find a friend to go with them. That's kind of a cheat tip.
I mean, where we struggle, I'll speak as a counselor now, and it's anxiety is a natural part of life, and everyone has it, and it's not always bad. But because it's so freely discussed amongst people now, which is great and wonderful, everyone's experience with it is different. So where I might be feeling clinically anxious and have my own set of situations with that, my friend might not be feeling that same thing, but because they know me and my challenges, they start to maybe take those off. So really talking with your kids about, yeah, I get anxious too when I have to do something for the first time or something that I'm not very good at, or just relating to them that we all feel that way and yet be still do the thing or try the thing. Let's try the thing and see how it goes. And then we can put back out and make the meta plans. This is great.
Please because you sorry in the expert so missing all they say in a to try me naru you how that the in very night they over
Which I think is a great point. And the anxiety that we feel is turned to others. Because they make you really excited and a little nervous, and you make you not so excited and really nervous. So really working through what's world not what I mean. And it's gonna be fun. And they're gonna have so many different things that we can experience and endure and where it's getting experience that's the bachelor over here and share and helpful and we're gonna figure the things out. We have quick blocking times and we'll be big together. And that's when you'll even if you're totally freak nerds, the answer like you want to kill. Does that review?
And there's a looks like with our freshman success curriculum with the Bear Food, we're trying our number one goal with that is to try and find ways to connect with the building, because when that happens, it gets easier. So it's not going to be happening. They're going to get it ad nauseum from us too. From the first couple months at school is a big. Where's your connection point? And how do you navigate the school? So by God, so they do from open.
So this school's plus shower speak. Then that could take some time. My senior came in as a very shy, quiet freshman, and we were just begging her to do something, anything, doesn't matter what. And it took her sophomore year, kind of probably mid-sophomore year when they were like, all right, we're good. And now she's like involved in MFL and having the greatest time. But it can take a while. That's okay.
no matter what that since
They got their own timelines. That's scary. 10 is heard out.
We're at time. Thank you so much for being here. You'll be hanging out. So go for your grab a piece. And then you want to decide, on there, gives that to you, and then send your sources as well. Thanks. You did call. Yes, I give also divinity. it's a feedback form. Love to hear what you have to say, make things better, or just the things that were helpful. So when we do this again, then we can know how to work better. We're looking at
So I gave sort of feedback sheet because IGA says and hopes that it's recorded for all of you, and so if it's not, if there's something that's more tomorrow, please let me know, because if people bits more information that you're hitting them, we're wasting their time. So I want to make sure there's like any feedback is welcome. Don't worry about Ardila.
yes. With that, that's on everyone's to say. Julia, no, it's fine. So, have a great night. So much for coming, and your kids are gonna do awesome.
Sorry.
E-
İyi. İyi de burada. Stiletto. Eles se estão Spirit yes. Discs. Yeah, this you need to. Oh man, why do I like it? Yeah, I press.
basically,
I didn't want to be staring down the when I was caught to me, so.
No, and saw this because I bid to the how much your bills.
Yes.
Speak.
You're about snitch. Yeah, so I was sitting down there waiting. Always other people. And then the concert poster in the building to me and said, no, look at those.
yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, not to this. Sneaky, kitchen.
By the way, man, I'm so busy.
In the dash, he close her. It is cursory here, but it's like I could hear those. So I almost.
It's leaving.
I don't know. It's hard during the defense when there's other stuff people out there.
Yeah.
There's never a time when there isn't stuff going on. I feel like these high schoolers always
It's easier to.
Is this still going? Oops, looks on. Let's turn that off.